Now, using some of the techniques from the rock, sand, and sea glass workshop, let's go ahead and apply that into a simple shell. Then after we have our line drawing, we'll take clean water and apply it inside the shell right up to the pencil line. And if I tilt my paper, you can see how wet it is by the shine on the surface. Now before I add any color, I'm thinking about the brush size that I want to use. If I use one that's too big, I'm going to flood it with too much color. And if I have one that's too small, I'll have lots of little brush strokes, which might make it look a little too busy and overworked. Then in the palette, I'll mix together French ultramarine blue with a burnt sienna, basically a brown and a blue. So it makes a nice blue-gray combination. To make this just a little more interesting, I can even drop in a little yellow or some pink. Now before we do anything else, we need to let this dry. Otherwise, if we keep adding water and color into this, it's going to turn into one big blob, and we're not going to have a very pretty shell. Then once it dries, using the same color combination and a smaller brush, let's apply a few brush strokes to give this some shape. And if you want, you can add another color. It's really up to you. And to avoid everything looking like straight lines, press a little harder on your brush and release. It'll be much more interesting. Then add some detail to the shell and let it dry. And while it's drying, let's go back, use the same color combination only in a darker value, meaning more color, less water, and let's apply the shadow. And to prevent it from looking too flat, go ahead and mingle in another color. Then once it dries, let's come back in, applying some more color right on top of the previous layer. All we're going to do is use the previous layer as our guide and reserve our highlight, which is the lightest area on the shell. Then if you need to give it more dimension, you could go a little darker with your shadow. And just in case you have too much color, you can always use a damp brush and just lift a little color out, or come back in and add more detail using a smaller brush. So until next time, have fun and happy painting.